we go. Hello. We are all on all of the things. Zoom, as well as website and YouTube. We will be on YouTube. We'll be posting this afterwards since we're not able to do lives yet until you go like, share, all of the things. Welcome. Welcome to Church of Healing Ministries. I'm Reverend Jamie. There's a lot to talk about today. I don't know how much we're going to get to, so bear with me as much as possible. We're going to start out though with just relaxing our holy temple, just preparing our internal area to be able to come into that Christ consciousness, to be able to attune to that same frequency. If everything works on frequency, tone, vibration, then we need to be able to tune our dial to that proper frequency so we can hear the Christ message, right? The Christ, from Christ consciousness, from God energy. Now we're going to close our eyes, sit up nice and tall, uncross your legs, and start to just kind of evaluate where you are right now. What's going on in your body? What's going on around you? Are you flustered? Are you relaxed? Are you calm? Are you tired? Are you sore? Start to really analyze and dive into how you're feeling. And as we start to breathe, we're going to take in even breath in and even breaths out. Okay, so we're going to take a deep breath in and exhale. Deep breath in, exhale. So we're going to even breath in. Just keep doing it. Even breath in, even breath out. Inhale and exhale, allowing your body to relax, removing any sore muscles, any impedance of energy. We're going to just allow that energy to flow. As a matter of fact, we're going to amplify that energy because that's what we are, right? We're amplifiers. We have the ability to amplify love, to make it better. So we're going to take in that energy, put up your hand like you're carrying a tray. Just imagine white healing light coming in to your center. Taking a deep breath in, letting it come through your body and really amplify that love. Deep breath in, exhale. Now the reason why we say is the 8 hertz tone. That same vibration is the actual tone we have in most words we use for God energy, whether it be Ra, Allah, God, Jehovah, Yahweh. There's still the sound, and that sound resonates with that 8 hertz tone vibration in the heart, the magnifier, 5,000 times more magnetic than the brain. So take in that loving energy, amplify it, and exhale. We're going to make our immediate space better, our immediate biosphere, our own energy, our own aura. We were going to take some deep breaths in and exhale. And just keep doing that. Do that as many times as you need to. Really take note about how you feel, what your body's sensing, what you're going through at the moment. And allow the space of that space in between thoughts. Just focus on the breath and allow that space of to be further and further. Focusing on that vibrational tone. Breath in. Exhale. Go ahead and keep doing that for as long as you need to. Close your eyes. Tune into that energy source. Be able to Inhale and exhale out all of that tension. Getting that love intention out into the atmosphere with your breath. You're going to slowly come back into this space. Slowly start to open your eyes. My sister's on IG and she says, "Sis, I love you and are so glad you do this. Thank you, sister. I love you and appreciate the support." It's not easy doing something a little against the grain sometimes, right? And that's kind of what our sermon's about, ironically. It's really, sometimes going against the grain's not easy, and getting that pushback is expected. Maybe not having the harvest you anticipated. Well, welcome. And I am Reverend Jamie Sonardi. I am the minister here at Church of Healing Ministries. I'm the second generation minister of non-denominational, non-secular church. We do incorporate some teachings from the Catholicism, the books that they're reading in church today, as well as understanding on a metaphysical level, a little bit of a theology understanding, and incorporating the cycles of the planet and earth science, which we have this week. Kind of fun. So I really appreciate you being here. It's been a few weeks, no service, and I had a lot going on. I can't even begin to explain how amazing the ICMA, the International City County Managers Association annual conference. It was huge. It was big. It was massive. And I'm still overwhelmed with everything. City managing is probably the route that I'm going to end up going into, whether or not it's for a city that is has a lot of issues that I really want to go into with, and I'll explain that later to those that maybe offline. But definitely a place where you can do a lot of good. So I'm going to kind of pursue that route, as my master's of public policy is in that arena. I do have a little bit of and going to this annual conference, I mean, the connections were really amazing. People in Colorado, people in Northern California, all over the country, even Hungary was like, anything you need, let us know anytime, and we will be there for you. And you just let us know. So that was really awesome. And just kind of being able to understand how the city works, because now I understand a little bit better on why things don't work and what you can and cannot really get accomplished. So that was really enlightening. I appreciated all of it. It was all very good. So if you were here and you didn't, I wasn't here this last couple of weeks, so hopefully you kept on your journey. You maybe watched some of the other episodes that you haven't been able to see in the past, rewatch some of the prior services. But in the beginning of the year, we start talking about the physiological explanation of the beautiful, how beautiful the poeticness of the Bible really is, and explains an alternative translation to the text. So we've been kind of going through and figuring out how to increase our own health while using the text within this translation. So recognizing the times and the seasons, as well as other cultures and religions and what they're representing, as well as how it all kind of fits together. And I've seen this kind of beautiful picture unfold on how to cleanse the body and how to relate the mind-body experience to spirituality and the text. So just like we use these cycles at certain times, right now is that time that we're starting that descent into the winter, into the fall, into the darkness, into that introspective time of analyzing our environment. And, if we didn't have the harvest that we wanted, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, we can then resonate on that and figure out how to set intentions for the next year so that when there is spring, things that you intend to do better will spring up. So we really want to use these cycles to figure out how to do better, not get sucked into the negativity of things, but to really figure out how to foster that learning experience. So hopefully we have a very fruitful next harvest, right? The next season. But right now we need to go underground. We need to retreat. Yesterday was National Flower Day. Then we've been learning also a lot about how flowers contain these polyphenols, and these polyphenols help with cancer and digestion and a bunch of things that are like, wow, we can just go outside and eat plants. Yeah, you can, and it's healthier. Today is also Clergy or Pastor Appreciation Day. So, sister, I appreciate you appreciating me. How about that? National Salmon Day. Being from the Pacific Northwest, this is kind of where my heart lies. I have a huge appreciation for the salmon. Going through school in the Northwest, in Washington State, we did a lot of native dancing and celebration of the salmon and understanding this keynote species and how important it is and how much they have just been decimated in numbers. I remember a story where natives were indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest were able to walk on the backs of salmon when they were spawning upriver to get to the other side. There were so many salmon. You could just walk on the backs of them and just like, excuse me, thank you. And that to me is amazing. And now we're hunting to find them. That's a problem. We'll get into that a little bit. It's also World Octopus Day. Did you know that octopus have 8 brains? And they're as intelligent as an 8-year-old. When I found out this fun fact, I was enlightened, excited, and so disheartened because I had just found it in sushi. And it was so good. And I'm so mad that this is the reality. And I stopped eating octopus. Yes, octopus. And tomorrow we're coming into Indigenous Peoples Day. So this is why it's important to really understand how the people that were here before us were able to work with the cycles of the current environment and the season to foster food and grow and harvest and eat and live and, survive. So instead of killing them all off, what we should have done was learn how to live very harmoniously. But those teachings and those practices were killed off and villainized for a reason. So we have Earth Science Week this week, which is pretty cool. Without some earth scientists and really thinking outside the box, we're not going to really find new things. There's somebody that's actually testing the DNA of rocks and finding human DNA and understanding that some of our rocks might actually be the remains of those giants spoke about in Genesis, which is also kind of cool. So if you cut into certain gemstones and you see that vibrant red, what's to say that's not petrified blood from our past ancestors. So there's some really cool things happening in geoscience right now. And there's some independent scientists, which is also pretty cool to look at. So instead of, Googling, or not Googling, Google doesn't own search. I'm going to, instead of using the internet to search things on whatever search engine you're using, it's really important to keep an open mind when we're talking about science. And it's really important to not dismiss what people do find, and to, kind of foster an environment where it's okay to come up with new ideas, or else we're never going to really grow and figure new things out. I mean, I do understand there's a certain bunch of people that really don't want us to find some things out, but it's happening. Deal with it. Fire Prevention Week. This is really important when we're talking about Flower Day, National Flower Day, Earth Science Week. There's also Vegetarian Week, Fair Trade. There's like a lot of things right now that encompasses being able to actually prevent some of these wildfires that we're having. Oh, hello. Nice to see you here. The Netflix. What about the Netflix? Sorry, we have an IG comment. The Netflix. What does that mean? Can you elaborate? So once again, if you actually go on to Facebook Live or IG Live, you can see us live. YouTube right now is not live, and anything else is not live because we cannot go live on them yet. So unless you go to our YouTube page at the COHM, the Cohm, and like us, subscribe to us, go ahead and get us to be able to go on live, that would be great. But right now it's just on IG and Facebook Live. So if you want to interact, those are the places where you can at the moment. So we're going to talk a little bit about Isaiah. So the actual verses that are in the Catholic Church today that are being read is Isaiah 5, 1 through 7, Psalms 87 through 19, Philippians 3, 4 through 14, and Matthew 21, 33 through 46. Oh, you mean the Nephilim, not the Netflix, right? Thank you, autocorrect. Doesn't really want us to know about the Nephilim, which is that hybrid species where the giants came down and mated with the 7 virgins and created this hybrid species that we don't want to talk about anymore. So we're going to just kind of glaze over that fun fact and understand that we need to keep an open mind when we talk about science, right? Back then, we're talking thousands of years ago. It's really hard to say what was there and what wasn't, what's petrified, what's not, so to literally say something is such a fallacy, and it's such a flawed logic, right? Think about it. It's a very flawed logic. So we're going to go into kind of how to look at negativity logically right now. I'm exhausted. I've been weeks nonstop. I'm about ready to close my eyes right after this. So Isaiah is more, so this Isaiah 5, 1 through 7 is actually a very interesting poem, like a parable. It's a poem of faith. It's a poem of hope. It's explaining, as sometimes even when you don't see the good that's actually being done, that it doesn't mean that it's not happening, which it doesn't really matter if you get judged by other people when you are putting your hard-earned effort into whatever it is to better whatever situation, right? You're not going to learn the lesson by just going, oh, okay, you're right, I'm going to quit. Especially with some of our scientists, right? Or a lot of our scientists are being discredited for new information all the time. So, that's not how you're going to learn your lessons. It's not to just curse everything, take everything down, react in a negative way, and I just want to point out too that if you have 100 bad days in a row in 1 year, that's only 27% of your year. you still have a lot of other percentage of the year left for them to be good days. Think about that. And sometimes things happen that you can't see. It takes 14 days for worms to start to biodegrade food. If you expected that to happen overnight, you'd be sorely mistaken the next day when you still saw a pile of food there that they haven't eaten. You're not going to be like, oh, composting doesn't work. Raw, and destroy it, right? That actually, we can kind of correlate that to our faith. We can correlate that to, the work that we do within ourselves and within the environment around us. We're expecting things to happen overnight, but really it's not up to you when things happen. It's just up to you to make sure the journey's there to foster it to happen. Now, Isaiah 5:1-7 is called the Song of the Vineyard. I'm actually going to read this whole thing. It's kind of long, but it's a pretty harsh judgment, in my opinion. It's basically like, okay, I'm just going to read it. I will sing for the one I love, the song about his vineyard. My loved one had a vineyard on a fertile hillside. He dug it up and cleared it of stones and planted it with the choicest vines. But he built a watchtower in it, or not but he built a watchtower in it and cut out the wine press as well. Then he looked for a crop for good grapes, but it yielded only bad fruit. Now, you dwellers in Jerusalem and people of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more could I have done for my vineyard, and what could I have done for it? When I looked for good grapes, why did it yield only bad? Now I will tell you what I'm going to do to my vineyard. I will take away its hedge, and it will be destroyed. I will break it down its walls, and it will be trampled. I will make it a wasteland, neither pruned nor cultivated, and bears of thorns will grow there. I will command the clouds not to rain on it. The vineyard of the Lord Almighty is the nation of Israel and the people of Judah, and the vines he delighted in. And he looked for justice, but saw bloodshed, for righteousness, but heard of cries of distress. It's kind of gnarly, right? Like, what if you just got the kind of that didn't yield good fruit for 3 years? There's varieties that do that, right? You're supposed to just chill out. The thing is, caveat, you can actually eat the grape leaves and still have something to eat and profit off of. But I digress. So it seems like a pretty harsh judgment, right? And the reaction seems really harsh as well. This is an example of what we cannot do to ourselves. When we don't see what we want, when we don't see the progress that we want, when we don't move forward, when we don't have the patience to be able to see the inner workings behind the scenes have actually been for our benefit the whole time. But if we destroy everything, we're never going to see that, right? If we just go, oh, I'm going to default to, I'm so terrible, my life is so bad, I can't think, I can't do this, and things are always going to be this way. If we keep defaulting to that and destroying what we built, then we're never going to see the fruits of our labor. Okay, so it looks as if the effects of tearing down that vineyard, maybe you got to type, right, that he needed to wait those 3 years, because there's some grapes that don't bear good fruit until the 3rd year of harvest. But he listened to the naysayers within that garden space. So he let it in, and he tears it down. And so now they don't have wine, they don't have juice, they don't have grape leaves, they don't have other things that are made with grapes. And the people suffer, but and then give animosity to the farmer, but the farmer's just doing what they said. This is why we don't judge people. It actually affects us, right? And the people ended up suffering. And if we listen to that judgment, and if we don't listen to that judgment, right, and we keep our faith, knowing that one day our hard work will pay off, it will. Yeah, you might have to grow a different crop in between, but keep at it, and you're going to be fruitful. So let's not forget, we have several stories where God lets people kind of hang themselves, in a matter of speaking, because we're given everything in order to get life right. Like, we literally are given everything, and we don't exactly use it properly, right? We don't exactly say, oh, I'm not going to do this because it's bad for the planet. People go, well, it's easy, so I'm gonna use a plastic bag. It's cool. These are our choices, right? So again, there's plenty of times where we hear of God letting people kind of reap what they sow, really. And just because, just because love formed this planet, and love also has self-preservation. A mother's love is also tough love, right? Like, sometimes as a parent, we've got to say, maybe we let them fall if they hop on the couch after the 16th time of telling them no. Maybe we let them see their effects and why we don't do that. Sometimes there's tough love. Sometimes when a teenager gets into too much trouble and gets in trouble with authority, sometimes we have to let them deal with their consequences. And sometimes our planet's the same way. So it's not really about like God letting something bad happen. It's really God letting the effects and just letting it play out, because after a while of trying to give you everything, at a certain point, a parent is going to be like, okay, you can work for it yourself. And by the way, I'm just going to turn up the heat just a little bit because that's an effect. Sorry, not sorry. And that's what we're dealing with, right? But we have to learn how to heal with it. We can't just be like, oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is negative, yada, yada, yada. Nothing's being done and I'm out. It doesn't work that way. We've got to protect ourselves by saying, you know what, I understand if you want to live the life you want to live, but I'm going to live a life with faith. I'm going to live a life with that hope and that promise. Like, just because I didn't have that good harvest doesn't mean I won't have that good harvest. So tough love is a thing. When you watch your child mess up, sometimes you got to let them suffer their own consequences. And it's lesson building. It shouldn't really build animosity. So let's not forget, we have a story, right, of the Creator allowing his own son to perish and leave the planet by being killed. Tough love. So we have this story. So we can't just be like, oh, why does bad things happen? That's not God. That's not fair. That's the devil. That's not quite accurate. It's actually your actions. Funny story, or lack thereof, right? So God letting his own creation, Jesus, die because of the efforts that he caused. Because, I mean, let's be real, Jesus was kind of a government disruptor. So with that, there's effects. But there's not to say that those effects didn't also lead to change, right? So sometimes we know that even when it's going to hurt, if it's for the greater good, it could help. And we allow it to happen as a parent. But it's not necessarily God causing something bad to happen because God's evil or whatever. So it's not a God allowing tragedy. It's God allowing tragedy to inspire growth. And that is what we are supposed to do every year. We're supposed to inspire growth and change. And what's not being highlighted is the fact that there was soil that he had to work. He had the ability to pick out the rocks, right? This is all privilege. This is very coming from a place of privilege. He had the soil, had the ability to tend to it, had the ability to add more soil and plant things. So even if it didn't bear fruit right now, the ability to grow was there, and you educate yourself more with how you can help that environment, it really doesn't matter what people think. You'll be able to have a good harvest later. And I think that's the caveat that's not being, I didn't really find it in any of the research I was doing, where people should actually be thankful for have given all of the tools, but it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. You just got to figure out how to put it together to make the big picture on how to make things work. Doesn't mean the pieces aren't there. Doesn't mean it's not provided for you. You just kind of got to find it. Come on, if it was that easy, the journey wouldn't be that fun, and we'd all be woke. So I digress. So we can still use the tools given by Gaia. So even if it didn't bear fruit, it still bared grape leaves. We could still make, some of these great grape leaves that they have in the Mediterranean dishes that are really good, that have rice or couscous, or I don't know. It's delicious. I love it. I love grape leaves. So there's things that we can do. We can just pivot, right? We don't need to have things happen the way that we anticipate them being, right? Like we anticipate and saying, this is the end goal. If it's not this way, I'm going to tear the whole garden down. Doesn't work. But a lot of us are actually doing that right now. We're just not seeing the results we want, either spiritually, financially, within our friends, within our family, within our relationships. And we're just going, fuck it all. Well, no. Cut out the toxicity, add some good things to it. Wait to see what happens. You don't have to listen to what everybody says. I was talking to somebody that, really, really cared about what people thought of them, and really, really cared what, on the superficial level, what really mattered was what other people thought of them. And it's such a constricting mentality and way to live that you really got to foster your own growth. You can't allow yourself to have these barriers and not be healthy. Now, you can't let these negative thoughts penetrate your garden. This is where your disciples are in the mind. And we've got to be more like Peter Simon, who not allowing what you didn't pre-okay in. And you shouldn't let that be someone else's criticism, right? So it doesn't really matter what people say when you did good, even if it's not bearing the fruit that you anticipated, you're fine. Now, to bring this all back around to the time and the moment, I wonder how the indigenous people feel in this whole situation. Are they really ready to have their land back and say, oh, well, we're actually entitled to it? Again, we're talking from a place of privilege, not a place of godliness. This is a place that allows for our entitlement to say, well, I deserve this. So we're in this interesting time, right? We all want to heal. We all want to move on. We all want to grow this vineyard and grow this environment of peace, love, harmony. But we have a lot of generational trauma. And that generational trauma is our present land not bearing fruit. Until we heal that generational trauma and reconcile with how our land was acquired in the first place, we're never going to see the bearing of fruit. So it's really not our land to bear fruit. And until we work in tandem with the native and indigenous communities that had been doing it for thousands of years before the colonizers got there. I'm not even going to say we because I'm Sicilian, so that really doesn't include me. But the colonizers that here we are now, we cannot ignore the fact that there's generational trauma. We can't ignore the fact that there's bad karma coming. We can't ignore the fact that unless we heal, agree to work with indigenous communities, Because right now there's a lot of policy that's going against Indigenous communities, their water rights, right? You can't just dam up a river and all of that fishing that these Indigenous communities rely on, just clear it up and say, well, now we're going to direct it to this rich community over here for water, right? That's how policy is systemically racist, right? That's how we have allowed toxicity within our land and our cultures kind of perpetrate over and over and over and over again. So we have to be aware of this. And I know that I'm asking a lot of people to step up and kind of be stronger than most. But unless we heal that generational trauma, we're not going to move forward. We're not going to be able to move forward when we bring the past with us. And that kind of brings me to the next parable. Even though that judgment was pretty harsh, when we see the effects of tearing down the vineyard, we see that things just don't work right. Now, the next parable is really a plea. Now, this plea, when we're talking about needing that fruit to bear harvest, the people start to cry out, why did you let those hedges down? Right? They start to blame. They start to criticize. I don't have my wine because you tore down the garden because you listened to me in the first place? How dare you? Like, how critical, right? So right now they're asking God, why did you do this? And really it's the verse 17 through 19 says, let your hand be upon the man of your right hand, upon the son of whom you've made strong for yourself. Then we will not turn back from you to revive us. We will not turn back from you when you revive us. I call upon your name to restore, so God of hosts, because your face to shine is in. Oh, that didn't work out. I don't know how I got that wrong at the end, but the whole verse is saying that I get it. I messed up. I should have done it myself. I relied on other people. Okay, so now that I did that, if I make myself strong, are we good? Right? Like, okay, I messed up. I need some reviving. And this can happen every month. And we learn about that in the Christos rising of that Christos oil. So when we mess up, when we listen to negativity and let that negativity into our garden and we tear everything down, when we learn that lesson, we're not going to go back and do it again. So what we see is the resurrection. And then we see that Christos oil that goes out of the brain and down the 33 vertebrae and back up within 2.5 days. So it's basically saying, like, chill, you've got another month. Like, I know you didn't do it this month, and it's okay, don't be mad at yourself. But you got to learn your lessons. And you don't have to worry about the past because you're not going to be able to move forward if you do. So keep making progress and you're good. So that's kind of the general consensus of those verses. Do what you got to do. Take care of you and have faith that just the little bits will work out. Like if you flatline, have zero progress, you're not going to do very well. But even if you make 0.001 in 100 days, that's like progress. I think it's like another, 33%? No, 27%. I saw the statistic. It was very interesting. So those little things. Now, when I learned this specifically working with the soil and understanding how little effects really help navigate proper health and proper soil. Now, in the Philippians 3:4-14 shows us that the journey is never actually done, right? That gardening, that fostering the growth, it's never really done. And this verse tells about Paul and his journey to tell people about Jesus, and how he even said his journey never ends. And the work of working on yourself and that shadow work is never done. No matter where you are in your religion, no matter what you believe, that there's always more to know about God energy. Like it's that, oh, I know that this happened. I know that this is a fact. That's not a fact. That's not a fact. That's just something somebody told you at one point that they said was a fact. So that journey's never done. Paul spoke of this journey, and he wanted to make one thing clear, that you can't be stuck in the past when moving forward. Doesn't work. Quote, brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it. But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining forward what is ahead. End quote. And that is that slave mentality. When you are stuck in the past, you're not going to get to that Holy Land. You're not going to be able to climb the Mount Sinai of spiritual growth. And our next verse, Matthew 21:33-46, now it's a story of renting out your vineyard that you've tended to and letting somebody else come in, misuse it and not take care of it and abuse it and mistreat. So that's like when you allow people in your life to mistreat you and you give them the ability to kill certain parts of you. When people mistreat you around you, and they have malice intent within that dwelling. So this whole story is about renters that started renting from the vineyard and then ended up not paying what was required to rent the vineyard for profit, right? So they're leasing the vineyard and they're not paying what they're supposed to. So the vineyard owner sends a couple people to say, hey, what's going on? They're killed. So then the vineyard owner sends the son going, okay, you're going to respect my son, right? And they kill the son, wanting the money and the inheritance because obviously he's rich because he owns the land. So it's really a story of, you have to be careful about who you let into your mind and in your environment. The parable of the tenants is to not allow certain people in our lives, right? This is another example of we protect the garden that we've created. This is an example of why we need to keep the hedges up, why we need to keep the faith, why we need to keep on that path, no matter what negativity comes in. It's hard to do this when you don't have the proper nutrition, when you're not really giving your body and your mind what it needs to foster that healthy growth. Flowers are a great way. So this National Flower Day we talked about. Salmon is a great omega-3 fatty acid, and it's a great way to be able to get your micronutrients. However, we now have fake salmon, GMO salmon. So sadly, unless it's fresh, line caught, sustainably caught, please don't eat anything from the ocean. Unless it's literally sustainably caught, kind of the old way of doing it, they're really raping the ocean and all that it encompasses into it. Same with the Columbia River and the salmon populations. Since it's Vegetarian Month, this is a really good time to look into what we can do to increase that vegetable intake. Now, I'm not sure if vegetarianism and veganism is for everyone, because for me, it's not. I've tried it. It's almost killed me a few times. I can't do it. So I have a 90-10 diet. It's mostly plant-based. I still have some protein in with it. But I try to incorporate very ethically sustainable methods, if not local, and all of the things. So we try, but the best thing to do is really grow your food. So pears, since it's National Pears Month, we see vitamin C, K, folate, potassium, copper, rich in fiber, aiding in digestion, antioxidants. It prevents against chronic disease, and vitamin C supports the immune system. You can enjoy these as a snack in salads and oatmeal smoothies or desserts. Pears are great. Pineapples have amazing vitamin C, vitamin B6, copper, manganese. They're great source of skin, benefiting the skin, anti-inflammatory properties. It contains bromelain, which helps with digestion and bone health. So you can add add pineapple to fresh fish, and you can add it to snacks, eat it by itself. Persimmons, great. I used to have a persimmon tree. I loved them. They're rich in antioxidants, vitamin A, which is promoting vision and eye health, as well as skin plasticity. And it has dietary fiber, aiding in digestion and weight management, as well as supporting the immune system. So you can eat them as a healthy snack with salads or yogurt, smoothies, or baking. Incorporating these or blending them into a beverage really provides a lot of nutrients, and our native ancestors actually used these plants, including pears and pineapples, at least where they were able to grow, and other fruits similar to persimmons. Now, persimmon is an apple, and there's thousands of varieties of apples, so that's key caveat. There's medicinal uses for digestive aid. Pears and fruits help to alleviate constipation and diarrhea, anti-inflammatory with pineapples, minerals, supplements with these fruits, as well as immune support, postulous and topical applications. So a lot of these were used to smooth skin irritants, and they were used in rituals, preservation techniques, lots of things. So that's just how we're not really told the importance of the fruits that need to be growing right now. We can dry them out in the sun, and then we can rehydrate them later. So when we're talking about how to be able to sustainably and ethically get our protein in, we're not going to eat octopus anymore. They have problem-solving skills, they can camouflage, they have a complex nervous system, they're able to use tools, they have an inquisitive nature. Again, it's not sustainable, and they have the intelligence of an 8-year-old. So please stop eating octopus. I beg you. I literally beg you to stop eating octopus. Now, salmon populations, they're a keynote species, and they play a critical role in their ecosystems, bringing vital nutrients to the ocean and freshwater environments. There's overfishing of these. They have habitat loss, climate change. Each of these different populations of salmon and octopus have rapid loss of ability to survive. So the most we could do is promote that earth science education, since it's Earth Science Week, promote environmental awareness, scientific exploration, and let's really work on policy that's pro-earth science, and really include policymakers that understand the importance of keynote species. Now, when it comes to vegan and vegetarianism, there are a lot of benefits to the plant-based diet, including increased microbia fluids, as well as many neural development and neuroplasticity benefits. But there's also some caveats. So I want to go over these caveats real quick before we call it a day. Nutritional concerns to be concerned about when we're talking about vegetarian and veganism is vitamin B12. Since these are water-soluble vitamins, we need to incorporate them every day. We need a new supply every day. They don't store in our fat like fat-soluble vitamins. So vitamin D, along with vitamin K, omega-3 fatty acids, calcium, iron, zinc, clean creatine, and micronutrient issues like protein. So these dietary protein provide a source of amino acids, which play critical roles in the building block needed for synthesis of a range of neurotransmitters. So not every single human being is the same, and not every body is able to get the same nutritional benefits as other people. So when it comes to very specific diets, please work with a nutritional coach, a nutritionalist, a dietitian of some kind that understands that nutritional psychiatry, mind-body connection. Discuss your goals and how you want to go completely vegetarian or vegan, and see how you can increase certain microbiome in the gut to allow that to happen, if that's possible for you. If not, please don't judge others so they tear down that garden, start fresh, and hurt themselves for you, right? That's kind of where we're going with this. We don't want to criticize, and if we don't have the ability to achieve goals without that judgment, then we're not going to be able to grow. We're not going to be able to grow as a society. So we need to choose to be great this weekend. It is Choose to Be Great week. Let's foster the people around us to having healthy diets, healthy mentality, the ability to keep negativity out, the ability to regrow that garden of faith, even if it's torn down in a month. Let's go ahead and bring it back up. It's not really our job to criticize. It's our job to grow. So let's do that. And since we're going to choose to be great this week, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Let's see if I missed anything. I think I got everything. Again, this is the first time back in 3 weeks, so I'm a little out of touch. This weekend was also the last readings through the Torah. So in the Jewish culture, this last weekend, and it ends today, started yesterday, ends today, and it is the last readings of the Torah for the year. There are many Indigenous heritage months. There's a lot of Indigenous heritage acknowledgement this month, and one of them being not only Indigenous Peoples Month, but the Italian American Heritage Month. And since I am half Italian Sicilian, this is very important to me. This is like the only day, this is the only month that we really get, or any sort of acknowledgement. Italian American Heritage Month. There's so much more to that. There's the little island of Sardinia, Syracuse. There's like these just areas around that encompass this whole trade. This is where the Phoenicians were. But there's a lot of history that's not being told. We're not all mafia. We're not all pizza eaters. So really, let's take a look at some indigenous cultures, and let's go beyond our single story to understand where people are coming from, so we're not as judgmental, and we can allow that vineyard to grow. We can allow that faith to grow. We can allow love to grow. Thank you so much for being here. Namaste. God bless. Blessed be all the things. I look forward to seeing you next week. And if you have any questions, please put them down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment what you didn't like, but be nice. Let's be nice. And again, thank you for being here. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.